Hi, everyone, and welcome to Shellcast, the podcast that's a beach break for your ears. We celebrate the people and experiences that make the Fort Myers islands, beaches, and neighborhoods of Southwest Florida so special. And today's episode proves that you can fit an island into a box. We are cracking it open, get the new game called Sanibel. Shellcast. We are joined by an incredible team today. Elizabeth Hargrave, the developer of the new game Sanibel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and we've got narrative designer Tess Hogan with Avalon Hasbro. Am I saying that right?
Avalon Hill on Hasbro. We're a smaller studio inside of Hasbro, but thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
And creative designer Sammy Ventura.
So good to be here.
Great. And Michael Skirty, who is, I got to get his title right, he's the manager of global brand and product management for Avalon.
Perfect. You can just call me Skirty, too.
And Tori Helm, the manager for global consumer marketing at Avalon Hill.
Hello. I've heard Shell Yes is the say, so we are super excited to be here. Shell Yes.
Shell Yeah, we are.
and a familiar face and voice to Southwest Florida, John Lai. He's the CEO and president of the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce.
Shell yeah.
So, Elizabeth, let's just jump right in and start with you. Sanibel isn't just a location, it's an experience. What is the backstory of your relationship with Sanibel, and how did you turn it into a game?
Yeah, I grew up in Gainesville, so just found out that Sanibel wasn't like our every time beach, but it was more of like a special destination. We came here for Christmas a few times with my family and family reunions. And I had family also in Venice, so did a lot of shelling there. And it was really my dad's idea I had several other successful board games already, and
Let's just say Wingspan.
Wingspan, yes, being the best known among them, yes. And my dad said to me one day when we were at the beach that, why don't you do a game about collecting shells? And I realized there isn't really a board game yet about collecting shells, which seems weird once you think about it, because it's such a universally appealing activity. And so I started working on one, and I knew I wanted to call it Sanibel because I just think of Sanibel as, like, out of all the beaches I've ever been to, the best shelling by far.
Have any of you been to Sanibel? How many? No?
No, we came down in April of this year to film the announcement video, which premiered in May, but that was our entire team's first experience here, and to say we fell in love with it is an understatement. And I just got a text from my partner. He's like, "Hey, let's come back for February vacation." You're getting return visitors already, but we leaned into Elizabeth's experiences and her memories and a lot of research through platforms like iNaturalist and just the internet, and all the good stuff. So we're excited to be back, though, for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about how the game works. We're looking at the board right now, and it's coastline. The way it's been described is it really is like taking a walk along the beach. I've heard it described online as like a cozy game and something sort of, it becomes familiar. Those are all buzzwords for Sanibel, in a nutshell. So chop the listeners through.
So the board is the coastline. It's got some beach chairs on one end of it and the Sanibel Lighthouse on the other end. So the full game is walking from your beach chairs to the Sanibel Lighthouse and back again. And when I say walking, you've got a little person-shaped piece that you're moving down the board. And the beach is kind of divided into sections. And each turn, you're moving your piece onto a new section and picking up some shells from that section of the beach. And then separate from the board, you have your own personal little player mat that looks like a shell bag. And you have to take the shell tiles that you have picked up off of the board, and you're putting them in your own little bag. And the scoring all happens at the end of the game, and it's all about which shells you picked up and also how they are arranged in your bag. And each type of shell has a different set of scoring bursts for how it earns points.
I've heard it also that you play it once, you kind of get the hang of it, and there's like a strategy of walking fast down the beach, walking slow down the beach. What do you think?
I think it mimics the kind of unsuspected competitive nature of shelling where, like, as you're walking down the beach, you see somebody ahead of you and they go to pick something up. You're like, so what did you just pick up? Right. For someone behind you, you're like, what did I miss? That Elizabeth put in the game, that's that push-pull tension of, if I go too far ahead, then I have to wait for everyone else to catch up to me when I want to get exactly what I get. But if I am a little more patient and I take my time walking down the beach and take fewer things on each turn, I can get maybe more options, more things to choose from. It really feels true to life.
Well, one of my favorite parts here as well is as you're walking down this beach, I'd say in most traditional board games, you'd be nervous that some of these pieces, like when you look at each section of the beach, there's lots of shells on them and some of them are covered up, but you actually kind of dig through each section of the beach to find the shells that you're looking for, and as you add them to your bag. And what's so great is that as you were walking down, especially if you're playing a 4-player game, there's a lot of people there, the beach gets picked pretty clean. The shells are, you really want, some of them are rare, there's only one of them in the whole game, so you really want that one. They really start to deplete the beaches, and then the tide comes in. And as the tide comes in, this piece right here, there's a little tide marker on the table. When that moves to the next section, more shells wash ashore. And that feeling feels very, one, it's satisfying. You see the board like refill, and everyone gets really excited. Like, oh, okay, now I got something else I'm chasing. But that true to life kind of feeling of walking down the beach, trying to be the first ones there to get the right shells, and the rare ones disappearing, and the tide bringing in, you stop.
And as Skirty mentioned, one of the funny things that I think happens is as your day, like sometimes people forget to dig through what's in that panel. And then the next person goes and they pick it, they dig and they pick it up and they're like, oh, I forgot to dig.
And the shells are what you would find on a Sanibel beach. I believe there's some shark teeth. That's more an homage to your dad. And there's only one.
Junonia.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. I mean, that's just so Sanibel, because that's hard. That's the hardest one to find. And these are, and I'm just going to describe these for listeners. It's pictures of shells on tiles. And the tiles are, how many sides? 6?
Hexagon.
And you're putting them in your shell bag, and your shell bag has all these shapes, and you start from the bottom and you build up, right? And you use partners on Sanibel to do your research. You also use iNaturalist, I think, the Shell Museum.
Community members at Sanibel who had taken pictures. I mean, Elizabeth did the first part of, she was already using iNaturalist to verify all of the shells in the original game. And then as we added some more and did some kind of cross-referencing, making sure the game's scientifically accurate to Sanibel, using places like SCCF or the Bailey Matthews Museum have great listings online and verified sources that have been found in Sanibel. So a lot of great community resources that you're able to do in our remote research. I mean, even the shells themselves, just to describe for the listener, are like these beautiful watercolors. Sammy.
We hired Dal Taylor, who is a fantastic maritime illustrator, and he himself had a handful of these shells in his studio. So we were connecting the right people to the right job. And so there's painting from life, and then the research that Tess put together, that I put together. I'm chronically online. So digging through social media and Reddit on top of iNaturalist and sending those to the illustrators. So everything is true to nature, but it's all in this incredible custom watercolor format. And we're using bright, bold colors behind the seashells to really help those natural colors pop. So you're seeing the details of the turkey ring and, the kitten's paw, and just giving it something to pop off of, as well as create contrast for the game board. So it makes it really easy as you're pulling for your bag. And the watercolor illustrations touch everything from the shells to the beach to the boards to the front of pack, back of pack, the little tray that's inside. If there's a piece in this, there's a custom illustration to it.
Well, it's just beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it's, that beachy, that coastal feel that you get. And I can imagine people in, up north, you're in the Rhode Island, Boston area right now, freezing and playing this game and just dying to get down here and
come back here February.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Shellcast, and we are talking Sanibel, the board game, with game creator Elizabeth Hargrave and the creative team from Avalon Hill and Hasbro, along with John Lai from the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce. John, from your perspective, what does the board game mean for Sanibel, both as as a destination, as a community, still writing its next chapter?
We've used the word serendipitous a lot. And, when this game was introduced to us and our team at the Chamber, we really were blown away because we were celebrating our 50th year, but yet we were only 2.5 years out from Hurricane Ian and still trying to regain and remind ourselves of our sense of place. This board game did just that for us. It helped us remember why people love this destination. It helped us remember why what we do is so important. And then it brought us back to just the fact that this is simple. This is not complicated. And I think that in so many things that we do in life, we overcomplicate things. And we found ourselves doing that with the rebuild and trying to rediscover our sense of place. And so when we first got the prototype out, we opened it up and we saw the fact that it was literally Lighthouse Beach with a 3D model of the lighthouse at the end of it. It was inspiring. And I think that was reflected in this room here today where we showed it all to the community. That, this is something that's going to not only continue to motivate us here as residents and business owners on the island, but also reach and remind our visitors and loyal guests that this was what they loved about us pre-year and bring them back to us.
To celebrate this game, to celebrate a hurricane season with no hurricanes, no recovery. It's just, it's like the tiles are sort of falling into place.
Exactly. Let the tiles fall where they may, but man, we've really got ourselves a good board right now.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited about this.
Really?
Shell, yeah.
Sanibel's the seashell capital of the world. How did you pick the shells?
Some of it was from my personal memory and my personal collection at home. And like Tess mentioned, looking at iNaturalist to make sure, the transverse arc is this boring white shell that no one actually collects, but is actually, when you look at the beach on Sanibel, 50% of the shells are there. So that process kind of reminded me, okay, that has to be in there.
Interestingly, that shell is very common with people who paint on shells. So we have a lot of artists that are local, right, that use those shells, paint on them, and then leave them throughout the island for visitors and guests to find. This once again reminded us, we're the shelling capital of the world, and the folks that have been here to visit us since our recovery know that, they remember that, but the folks that maybe haven't or hesitated will be reminded of that when they play this game.
I know for a fact that you can go down to the Sanibel Community House right now.
Yeah.
They have a group called the Shell Crafters there, and you can buy a Santa ornament.
Yeah, made out of those shells. Yeah.
Oh my God, no kidding.
I mean, that is a perfect canvas.
Or you can get a little kit and make your own Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Thing was also in mind a little bit with some of the ways that the different types of shells score. So one of the categories are the little spirally shells that also I'm not super excited to find one of these on the beach. But if you find a whole bunch of them, then you can then you've got an art project.
Yes, yeah.
And that's basically how they score the game. You have to have 5 of them before you get any points for them. And then the next 5 and then the next 5. That's why that's that way. And the coquitas you want to find in pairs. The shark's teeth, you get bonus points for having the most out of anyone at the table, and that's specifically for my dad, who is very competitive about his sharks.
So what does your dad think?
So he actually passed away in February, but I got to play it with him on Sanibel last Christmas with the final art, and everything was already ready, and that was really special. And he did well, and he collected the most shark's teeth.
Very cool. Very cool. What do you hope people can take away from playing the game?
Yeah, I think that what you guys have here on the island, you've captured a really special magic. And Elizabeth's been able to design a game that kind of embodies that. And so one thing we're really grateful for is the opportunity to put this game all over the world. So you'll see it show up in stores in Italy and in France, and their native languages. And the fact that we can deliver that, I think, is so satisfying for us as a creative team to make sure that the game and the experience and that emotion that you feel as you collect these shells and you bring them to your bag resonates all over the world. You're the shelling capital of the world. We want the world to know that, right? And with this game, we hope they feel that, like they're here at the beach when they play Sanibel.
I also think there's the double layer. Like, I think we all share that goal for consumers and players, but also for the community. Like, we've just been so incredibly inspired by the resilience and determination to come back after the hurricanes, especially despite not having big corporate dollars behind being a very local-owned community. And just to see that flight, like, we left when we filmed down here just feeling like this had the opportunity to be more than a game. And I hope more than anything that the people of Sanibel feel that way. If that's the case, it will be a pinch me moment and the coolest moment in my career. Like we were talking earlier, I could retire now. That's a pretty special opportunity that you don't get very often, if ever.
Some games even have an ability to make people want to make a pilgrimage to play the game in a place that the game is named after. So we're really, really hoping we can get the catch on, like, hey, play Sanibel at Sanibel and take a picture and post it, because we've seen that happen in our industry a lot.
I was just in Europe for a couple board game conventions, and I noticed on the map that Carcassonne, France was between my two conventions, and I had to go play the game.
Did you do it? Oh, my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I track all the games that I play, and I get to tag the location that I played those things in. And so it was so satisfying. We played last night, to be like, I've now played Sanibel at Sanibel.
I just say the one other thing that I hope people get is, some of my other games are more complicated, and this one I really tried to aim at a sort of family level. Like, you can play this with your family, you can play this with people who don't play a lot of board games, because it came out of my family experience and wanting to be able to play it with my family. So I hope that this will be a game that, like, gamers can introduce to other people, but also people could just pick it up and play it with their families and enjoy a day at the beach.
Game night on the Gulf, anyone?
So we ate this dinner last night at Dock Forge, and when we were talking about the distribution in Germany, introduced them to the fact that Germany is one of our top international feeder markets. And
she had mentioned that when you went to Germany, people were coming up to you and talking about Sanibel, right? Which means that your work is working.
Good try. That's good to hear. And the conference, it's a gaming conference, right?
There's a huge game convention, like it's over 100,000 people.
And I think even when we go to all the conventions, it has more people have come up to us and said things like, I've been to Sanibel, even in different countries and stuff, and just say that this is something that really resonated with them. They're going to get it for their mom. They got to get it for their spouse. Or like, they're so grateful that they can finally play something with their spouse. Because a lot of games, when you go to these game conventions, a lot of them are pretty nerdy. They're games that Skirty would like. My daughter's 8 years old, and being able to, she can play this game. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter whatever the case may be. This is a game that everyone can enjoy, because everyone can enjoy nature, and like that relatability with a theme, that connection with that theme is something that kind of put the phones away, take a moment, and be together as a family around a table I think is just the best part about games in general. So
yeah, and to have people coming up and talking to you about that they've heard about it or whatever, that's just, I can't imagine what a great feeling.
I think I may have mentioned that I used to run resorts, and a lot of what, we saw at Sanibel were generational travelers. They made a tradition, and then I think I asked you that last night, were you a generational traveler? And you're like, well, my grandparents used to come, and they brought my parents. So I guess I am. Well, and I think so much of it is that once you've been here once,
you keep coming
very much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we want to come back in February when it's freezing cold, and you're like, John, stop doing the snow test.
The other thing we were telling John last night is that Germany is like the center and the origin of the modern board game ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So there's a history of, like, Skirty mentioned that Avalon Hill's history was in making war games. Yeah, after World War II, Germans didn't want to play war games. and they started making games about other things. And so there's this modern industry of like games for adults and for families that are not about war, that are sort of more peaceful, more economics based often.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a little more in depth. Starting with like Catan, if you've heard of Catan.
Yes.
Is a German designer. It's a German game.
We even tag in the industry, we call them Euro games. Games that are, they're like strategy games that have nothing to do with war, have like, it's a lot more like, they're just all kinds of different themes you can find. Typically they're a little bit more, we call it kind of crunchy. It's a little bit more, I'm going to think this one through. And I think even more recently, we've seen a resurgence of games of people, because people love these Euro games, but it was really hard to teach to other people. It was hard to like get people to play them. And now we're seeing games come forward that are like, here's something that's really easy to play with anybody. And so they can kind of join this new hobby and kind of get into these things. Everyone's played Monopoly and Risk and stuff like that, but here is an opportunity to play something different and then kind of open up your world into this new hobby that's just growing at a crazy rate. So
give me the stats that you gave me last night about there'll be more distribution in Germany, considerably more than domestically, correct?
The market as a whole is much, much larger in Germany than it is in the US. We kind of trail. So like I can't speak to the specifics for Sanibel or for like our particular presence in either of those, but in the industry as a whole, it's probably like I'd say it's like a 65-35 swing between most of it happening in Europe and then kind of trickling over here. It's probably balancing out a little bit more lately, but like it used to be much more heavily dominated this way, and it's sort of kind of leveling out, maybe 60-40 now. So, awesome.
And things tend to take off there and then make their way to the States. A lot of times.
We get the Beatles, that effect that effect still happens. We see the Europeans doing something like, well, that looks cool. We want to be that too. And don't leave out like the APAC region, like the Pacific region. They're growing. The Latin America area has had some huge board game conventions. They're growing more and more popular. We're trying really hard to make sure that our games can get into their hands as well, because that's an area that's kind of been under supported because everything's kind of happened in Europe and in the US. And then there's just been this growing community in Latin America that's been like, we love games too. Get us in on that. Yeah. There's also like a website called Board Game Geek, which is sort of like the hobby gamers like Wikipedia. Yeah, it's got all the information about all the games. And Latin America has created I forgot the exact name of it. It's on top of my tongue. They've created their own version of that, so they could have it in their native, like so in Portuguese and in Spanish. So they have their own version. It's starting to like grow much faster than Board Game Geek is currently growing. So my favorite part about games like this, and you'll notice like when you play the game, there's not a lot of language here. So even if you're being a little language independent allows for you to play this game. And the other thing, I was going to say this earlier, I didn't get a chance to, is like, this is also colorblind friendly.
Yeah.
Sammy did a fantastic job that if all these, whether they're the shapes being identified up here at the top, to the colors of the different player boards, no matter what color blindness you may have, you can still play Sanibel. I think that's so incredible.
Where can people get it? How much does it cost? What's the rollout timeline?
Yeah, so our SRP on it is $39.99, so it's $40. We really want to make sure, like Elizabeth said, we want this to be a game that's really accessible for anyone to get. So we wanted to keep the price point nice and low. It'll start rolling out in January, so you'll be able to get it at your local game store or your local mom and pop shop for the first kind of spring. And when we start in the summer, then it'll eventually start showing up in larger retail box stores. So we are working with the folks here on Sanibel to make sure they can get their copies in stores so that when you come to Sanibel, you can get a copy of Sanibel. We think that'd be super special.
So I can come to Sanibel and I can go to my favorite small business and say, I want Sanibel the board game.
Absolutely. So one of the magical things about the hobby board game industry is that most games are recommended to you. Even if you think about all the games that you played before, do you think about the last game that you played for the very first time? You probably played because somebody else owned it and said, hey, I got a game I think you'll really like. And they introduced it to you. So we believe that those mom and pop shops, that person behind the counter, that's the person who's going to say like, oh my gosh, if you love it here, you can take a piece of it home with this game. You should get Sanibel. Anyone, like Elizabeth said, anyone can play it. It's really accessible. And so take a piece of this magic home with you, and this can provide that. So.
And that's plays to what Sanibel is.
Absolutely.
Small businesses.
Right. I mean, we have no formula retail on island, so the franchises that you'd be used to seeing in an urban or suburban area, you don't find here on the islands. It's mom and pop shops. And so the room is filled today with small business owners who can't wait to get their hands on this so that they can make the recommendations to the families that come and visit year after year, so that they can remind them to when they're having a tough week, to slow down, simplify a little bit, and play a game with their family and you really reconnect. Hopefully that spurs a thought that they should get back down here soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
John's referring to the, earlier today was the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce luncheon, where members walked away with a game, Sanibel the game, for their holidays to play and everything. So which is awesome. More about the rollout?
Yeah, so January 15th is when you'll start finding them on shelves all over. Now, in some parts of the world, boats move a little bit differently, so you may see them start popping up all over, kind of leading into that. But January 15th will be when you'll start finding them all over the place. And then if you're not near any local mom and pop stores, they will show up in big box retailers much, much later, so you can expect that later in the summer. But we really plan on focusing in, making sure that all the mom and pop stores are taken care of first so that they can have first crack at the apple.
If someone in Minnesota wants to order the game from a store on Sanibel, they might be able to order it online. That might be an option, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they go to the sanibel-captiva.org website, we find our retailers. There's a full list of them. I'm willing to bet that 99.9% of them will be carrying this.
And the website again?
Sanibel-captiva.org.
So you've got 36 hours to spend on Sanibel. What do you do? What do you eat? Where do you go? I guess you're going to play a game.
I'm on birding at Dune Darling tomorrow.
Yeah. See some roseate spoonbills and some pelicans.
We're going to go get fried green tomatoes at Wicky's.
All right.
The team, we went to Wicky's last year, or in April, and everyone has continued to talk about the fried green tomatoes. Tea time tomorrow for some golf.
And I am going home with a boatload of kitten's paws.
We are going for a swing in the morning to take in many kitten paws we can put in our little paws.
What is it about the kitten's paws? I like them too.
They're adorable. Yeah, and I think for me, when researching them and seeing photos, everyone always zooms into them. So I was thinking these shells were larger, and then when I came to Sanibel and saw they are these itty-bitty things, I lost my cool. Yeah, I brought home 20 of them, and I'm like, I'm not bringing more.
Sandy's also a natural-born sheller. When we were here, she could spot, she just kept coming up to me with these intricate, I was like, where are you finding? Of course, it's even for bad shellers, Sanibel's a perfect place to go. Yeah. Don't have a great eye like me, but she was just finding the most treasure and bringing it over. It was
looking at all this, it was a joy to walk along. I was like, I know what everything looks like.
I will also say, it was funny this morning, I haven't had a chance to tell you guys this, but so last time we were in town, I packed, because you don't come with bubble wrap for shells or whatever, right? And so I was like, I got a large cup from the 7-Eleven, and then I stuffed everything in toilet paper. And then put it in this shoe slot in my suitcase. And I've traveled since then, but I guess I've never put anything back in the shoe slot. And I put my jewelry in there or something, and I reached out, I was like, there's sand in here. So I was took a little bit of Sanibel with me last time.
This morning we're at the Sun. We're staying at the Sundial, and I tried to get I was like, I'm gonna play Sanibel at Sanibel, and I wanted to do this in real life. So I started walking down to the lighthouse, which is much further than I initially anticipated.
Just a little bit.
So
to scale.
I walked until I could see the lighthouse, and I was like, "Seen the lighthouse? I'm gonna make my way back now." So, but I did get one of the shells that I wanted to put in my copy of Sanibel to just always remember that I was here, and I got a chance to play it, and I'll always keep it inside there. Yeah.
Are there favorite beaches?
Within Sanibel. I don't know the names of them.
Okay. Well, give me directions, Lighthouse Beach.
There's the sandbar down that way.
Blind Pass? Is there a bridge?
No, not even that far.
Okay.
Within walking distance of here, and there's just this cool sandbar that all the birds hang out on.
I think that's down by Bowman's.
Okay.
You see, they're Bowman's or Gulf Side City Park.
Yeah.
They're both of them, and it's funny because so much has come and go with the tides, right? Yeah, so those sandbars tend to move, and it's funny because on Sanibel, you can find sandbars in different spots just about every month, where you can find a lot of those shorebirds. But to your point, Elizabeth, like walking the beach, you could walk for miles and have no idea how far down you've made it, and then realize I've got to now turn around and go back.
I gotta tell you though, I had family who lived in North Carolina, and so they had some beaches. They like to go collect shells over in those beaches, but those are different beaches. Those beaches are heavily commercialized. There's like
You can spot a high rise, and that's my.
you're that high rise or crying out loud. And then when I'm here, you can almost get lost on the beach still here, and that feels really magical, right? You feel like you can just kind of. It feels even though there is a lot of tourism that can happen here, it still feels very homey. It still feels very like.
It's not crowded.
It feels very organic, very natural to you.
You kind of love the fact that you can walk the beach and not realize that you've changed it to a different beach because it all looks natural, right? As it's you don't really even see the helms on the other side of the tree line because it's beautiful like that.
And I remember you telling us stuff that how you guys were we say ecology before economy. Was that, or
we know that
pair with them?
Yeah, we know that the ecology is tied directly to our economy on this island, and we from a bigger perspective, we look at it as throughout the state of Florida, but really it is prioritized on Sanibel, unlike anywhere else in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that as someone who comes to visit, makes a difference. I don't think it's something that anyone can put their finger on it when they first get here, that there's something different about this place. And then after you spend time here, when you say something like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally see that. But without it, it just feels like there's just more life here. And I think that's something really special.
Love to hear that. We don't have a building that's taller than a palm tree.
Really? That's encouraging.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Right? That's very unique.
I just want to thank all of our guests, Tess, Sammy, Michael, Skirty,
You nailed it. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Tori, and the gamer of all gamers, the queen of gaming. Is that right? Is that what we're? Is that Brene?
Royal Highness.
Elizabeth Hargrave and John Lai, thank you for being here and just giving the perspective of what this means to Sanibel. And I can't wait to hear people talking about playing it and buying it for people for Christmas and having it in the properties all throughout the island. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is an absolute honor. So thanks for having us. It is something that we see once again, spanning all age groups and reminding people that this is a special place to be.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, and whether you're playing to win or just playing for the island vibes, Sanibel is definitely a game you should check out. Shellcast is produced by the Lee County Visitor and Convention Bureau in Fort Myers, Florida, with special thanks to our producer, Andrew Frame. Thank you for listening to Shellcast, the podcast that's a beach break for your ears. You'll find Shellcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts or at visitportmyers.com. I'm Jackie Parker. I'll catch you again next time.
Shellcast.